Welcome back to another episode of the DFS Express presented by Loudmouth MMA and MMAtoday.com. I'm your host, the Daily Fantasy Sniper, here to talk UFC Fight Night 127 from London, England. The main event is Fabricio Werdum and Alexander Volkov. If you are new to the Express, I'm going to run through every fight on this card with a DraftKings specific pick and build a sample tournament lineup all in hopefully under 10 minutes. Before I get to that, please give me a follow on Twitter at the DFS Express. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, the DFS Sniper. All the support is greatly appreciated. Now to the fights. Fabricio Werdum is the favorite in the main event at 8,600. Alexander Volkov, 7,600. I like Werdum through and through here. I think there's a big gap in the heavyweight division. The top 3 or 4 fighters and everyone underneath. Volkov beat Stefan Struve his last time out. An okay win. I just think Werdum's on a different level. His striking is coming along. It's not great, but I think it's good enough in this matchup here where he can close the distance, get a takedown. I'm going to pick him to win by submission. I like Werdum a lot. I think he's in play in all formats on DraftKings at 8,600. Jimmy Manawa, 9,000. Jan Blachowicz, 7,200. Blachowicz has come through for me as an underdog before. I'm going to take him again here. Jimmy Manawa is one of those guys I think is a bit overrated. I know he's fighting at home. Knockouts over Corey Anderson. His last time out, he was knocked out by Volkan Ozdemir by a weird shot. Blachowicz has looked good as of late. And he has legit grappling, which people forget about. And Jimmy Manawa is a boxer with, I think, significant holes in his grappling. So as long as Blachowicz's chin holds up early, if he gets touched up, I think he can close the distance and get a takedown. These two fought before, and it was kind of a grinding up against the cage type of fight that Manawa did win. I think Blachowicz could secure a takedown this time and get a submission if the fight goes there. At least for the pricing, he's definitely my preferred play at 7,200. You need a knockout from Manawa. I'm going to lean towards the dog on this one. For the value. Tom Dukan, 9,300. Terrion Ware, 6,900. This is a fight that Tom Dukan is my fight pick. I think he is more explosive. I think he can, he could potentially get a finish here. But Terrion Ware is a tough guy. He's had a tough draw. He's fought Cody Stamann and Sean O'Malley. He has taken down a bunch in those fights. He would need to get this fight to the ground to win. Dukan's takedown defense has been suspect. I just don't know if he can do that. Dukan throws a lot of volume. This is one of those fights where Dukan is definitely my pick to win. Value-wise for DraftKings, you could punt with Terrion Ware here. I don't think I'm going to do that. I think Dukan is still my preferred play at 9,300. It could be hard for you to pay all the way up. I'm probably not going to pay there in a ton of lineups, but I don't want to roster a lot of Terrion Ware. I think Dukan outvolumes him and could potentially get a finish. So Dukan is my preferred play. Leon Edwards, 8,800. Peter Sabata, 7,400. This fight is not an attractive one for DraftKings. I think Leon Edwards is much better than Peter Sabata, but he's very methodical. Technical, he doesn't throw a lot of volume, not a ton of takedowns. I think he wins a pretty comfortable decision, but at 8,800, it's going to take a little bit to pay off that price tag. He's my preferred play at 8,800 because I think he's better than Sabata just about everywhere. But I won't have a ton of this fight. I won't have a ton of exposure. Leon Edwards is the preferred play. John Phillips, 8,900. Charles Byrd, 7,300. Phillips hits like a truck. There's no way around it. Charles Byrd is going to look for the takedown. He had 2 fights in the Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series where he got takedowns and submissions. The problem is, as Byrd comes in, he's very hittable. I think Phillips will land, and with his power, I think he'll get a finish. If Byrd is plenty alive, if he gets a takedown, Phillips has not shown an ability to get up. I just think the Phillips will land the shot coming in. So both these guys are in play for tournaments. I think this is a great fight to target for tournaments either way. My preferred play will be Phillips because I'm picking him to win, but I will have exposure to both fighters. Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts, 8,500. Oliver Enkamp, 7,700. A lot of people are on Oliver Enkamp here because he looked good against Nordine Taleb, whereas as good as you can look losing a fight on short notice. He throws a lot of flashy kicks. I think cardio is a little suspect. Danny Roberts His losses in the UFC are to Nordine Taleb, who knocked him out, and Mike Perry, who also knocked him out in the third round. Danny Roberts is just the better fighter. I think he's clearly more technical. I think he can use Encamp's style against him. The concern here is Roberts' chin. He was getting hurt in the Bobby Nash fight too. Roberts is my preferred play, 8,500. He should win the fight. Encamp could be a little popular. I think I've seen a bunch of people on him. And I'll have a little bit of exposure in tournaments because, as I mentioned, my one concern is the chin of Danny Roberts. But he's the preferred play at 8,500. Jack Marshman, 9,100. Bradley Scott, 7,100. My fight pick is Jack Marshman. There's no way he should be a minus 310 favorite and a 9,100 price tag on DraftKings. I won't pay that for Jack Marshman. I will be on the fade if he finishes Brad Scott quickly. I'll be on the losing end this week. He's my pick to win the fight. I don't think he's going to score 100 points here. I think this one will go to a decision, a fight on the feet. Bradley Scott, I know, looked bad last time out against Hermanson. Jack Marshman's a boxer. He hits hard, but again, you're relying on that knockout to pay off the price tag, and I don't think Marshman is that good. So the preferred DraftKings play will be Bradley Scott for the savings because I personally can't pay that much for Jack Marshman. Hakeem Dawodu, 9,400 against Danny Henry, 6,800. Danny Henry won his debut. I think it was his debut. Won his last fight against the younger Tamor brother. He took a beating in the first round, survived it. Tamor gassed out, and Henry ran away with the last two rounds. Dawodu is a TriStar product. He's a raw prospect. Looks like he'll be good. He was not going to gas himself out. I think this will be a comfortable win for Dawodu. I don't know if he finishes Henry. Henry's a tough guy. He's fighting at home. 9,400. You're kind of relying on a finish. I don't think he's going to win the fight, so Dawodu will be my preferred play at 9,400. But again, I'm going to be reluctant to pay that much this week. Ankalaev, 9,200 against Paul Craig, 7,000. Ankalaev, if I'm going to pay up, this is where I'm going to go. Nasty ground and pound. Paul Craig, I don't think he's that good. He's been finished by Tyson Pedro and Khalil Roundtree. I think Ankalaev will get a takedown, rain down some vicious ground and pound. He's a big favorite, minus 550, so even some odds value at 9,200. He's clearly my preferred play, one of my favorite plays of the whole card at 9,200. Stevie Ray, 8,400. Cajon Johnson, 7,800. I'm probably going to fade a lot of this fight. I think it's going to be a stand-up point fight. These guys used to train together at TriStar. I'm going to take Cajon Johnson because he's a little bit cheaper at 7,800. Stevie Ray also taking this fight on short notice and had stepped away from MMA in that he didn't have his contract renewed with the UFC, opened up a gym, took this fight on short notice. Cajon has been training, still focused on it. It's a close enough fight where I'll take the savings and kind of those X factors, and Cajon Johnson's the preferred play at 7,800. Mark Godbeer, 7,500. Dmitry Sosnovsky, 8,700. I don't think Sosnovsky's any good. I don't think Godbeer is any good. Sosnovsky, though, hasn't fought in almost 3 years. Real X factor type of fight. This is a tournament fight. If you're building tournament lineups, one you'll want. I don't think Godbeer can stop a takedown. I think that's what Sosnovsky is going to do. That's the way I see it playing out in my head. So Sosnovsky will be the preferred play at 8,700, but a lot of unknowns in this fight. But I don't think Godbeer can stop a takedown, so that should be the deciding factor in that one. First fight of the night, last fight of this breakdown, Nasrat Hakparas, 8,300 against Nad Narimani, 7,900. Hakparas, really good hand speed. Narimani is the Cage Warriors champion, but he's very hittable. So because he's hittable moving forward, and Hakparas has good hand speed, I'm going to take Hakparas, but Narimani is not in a boring fight. I wouldn't be surprised if this is just an all-out war and one guy eventually falls. This is, again, another fight I think that is good for tournaments, that I'll have a little bit of exposure to both sides, but I'll take Hakparas as the preferred play at 8,300. Okay, jumping over to DraftKings, going to build a tournament lineup. Go big or go home is kind of the philosophy here. 6 wins, high scores. Don't want a lot of ties. Be a little different. Maybe leave some money on the table if we can. Just going to build a quick lineup based on the breakdown I just gave. So I'm going to start with Kalev. I mentioned he's one of my favorite plays. We'll plug him in. Fabricio over Doom at 8,600 I think is underpriced. Najrat Hakparas, that is definitely a tournament fight. I'll put him in at 8,300. Going to need a little bit of savings. Look for my underdog. We'll come in. We'll take Jan Blachowicz. As I mentioned, I have my concerns about Manawa. I can roster 2 mid-tier fighters, or I can look for another dog. I'm going to put in Charles Byrd. Phillips was my preferred play, and he still is, but that's a tournament fight. I mentioned it in the breakdown. If Byrd does win, I think he scores very highly. If you're entering tournaments, I do recommend entering at least a few lineups with a couple variations, build a core, and kind of build a variations for the last few fights. I think is a good strategy. For this lineup, we have 9,400 left, and I'll go ahead and I'll put in Dawodu. If you want to leave a little bit of money on the table, you can put in Tom Dukan, but we just built Kalev, Verdum, Hakparas, Blachowicz, Byrd, and Dawodu. I think that's a solid tournament lineup. That's what I have for you for UFC London. We're off for a few weeks until UFC Brooklyn, UFC 223. Enjoy the time off. Good luck in your contests. I will see you on April 7th.